Let's get into the individual stocks, starting with Novartis, which is based in Switzerland and is one of the world's largest healthcare companies.
Yeah, so we normally talk about Johnson & Johnson. Today we're going to talk about the biggest European company in this space. And we're talking about a group that has everything from medicines, the typical pharmaceuticals. It's got an eye care division known as Alcon, generic pharmaceuticals in its Sandoz division. It's really in all of the associated pharma type areas.
Market cap here of $254 billion, price to earnings ratio of 23.7 and a dividend yield of 2.8%. So this is a new discussion point for us because we haven't chatted about Novartis previously. Your thoughts on the company?
Well, they're very focused on the developed market so far. So the majority of their income is from the US, from Europe, and then other developed markets. Japan is also a major income contributor for them. But as Paul mentioned, they're quite diversified in terms of their offering. They've got innovative new medicines, and then they've got the eye care, which is quite large as well. Numbers there sort of platted down slightly over the last reporting season, but also a big space. Alcon, I think a lot of people who wear contact lenses or glasses will know about them. And then, you know, they've got the over-the-counter medicine that's also quite big. Massive company, and I'm sure that they already are, but they'll develop their footprint into the emerging markets as well.
So, Paul, if you want heavyweight exposure in the pharmaceutical space, then you can't ignore Novartis.
No.
Yeah, so we talked normally about Johnson & Johnson in that space because it's a big US company, but this is about the same. And remember, you can buy these either in Switzerland or in the US because they have an ADR program. It comes from the merger of Ciba-Geigy and Sandoz, right? And then they decided, because of the competition from generics, to create their own generic company to compete with themselves. So they relaunched the Sandoz branch or brand. So in this country, you'll see Novartis is a big player with their main drugs being things like diclofenac, which is the core ingredient for Voltaren. I mean, everybody who's ever done any gym or any run has used Voltaren products.
I believe you have after your recent run down in Cape Town.
You know, the thing the kids have, Ritalin, that's what they take for that. And then some high-end, as Mia said, research-based drugs like Gleevec, which is a very expensive cancer treatment for cancers that were previously unresponsive to chemotherapy. So that's the kind of mix you're talking about. Swiss-based, research-driven, very good products, very good global marketing, very good distribution.
Let's look at the share price graph. Mia, do you want to weigh in on what is happening here?
Well, yes, this share has actually outperformed the Swiss index by about 4% per annum over the last 5 years, and a decent market, or a decent margin rather, of around 17% when you consider that. I think it's you know, these sort of pharmaceutical companies, as we'll discuss the rest as well, all generally tend to have higher margins. The ones that do the research and development end up having the highest margins, but Novartis still a very decent margin for a massive company.
Are we going hot or not?
It looks very similar to all of the global pharma companies. Yeah. They all had a little bit of a break in the last couple of weeks.
Was that just in sympathy with the market?
Well, it was the overall market, but it was also amplified by some negative comments from Hillary Clinton, which sounds a bit weird, but it was based on comments from her, and she's, of course, the assumed presidential person in waiting in the US, saying that they were going to act against pharma companies that overcharged for products. So it's a bit unclear what that means and whether it'll all be forgotten.
But it created some contagion across the board where pharmaceutical stocks are concerned. Hot or not?
I'm hot on this.
You're hot on Novartis? Paul?
Yep, I like it. We've got a client or two that own it, so hot on that one for sure.